Tell us about these little things you've brought here.
Well, you know, one of the things that people find most surprising is that you can create a cellar space without necessarily going underground. And the key to doing that is to build things so that they can be cooled electrically.
All right, so
with minimal energy input. So for instance, let's say you have a house that doesn't have a basement and you don't want to dig in your yard and put some well tiles in like you did. You can wall off a section, some section that's got access on an exterior wall.
Right, okay.
And you wall that off in a well-insulated way.
Right.
And then use a little bit of electricity to bring the temperature down. This is one way to build the insulated walls that work really well. This is called a structural insulated panel.
Can you buy it like that?
Yeah, well, it comes much larger than this.
Yes, I would think so, yes.
The panels are 4 feet wide and as long as you need.
Pretty straightforward, isn't it?
It's very straightforward. And the insulating value of this is huge because, as you'll see, there's no wood to bridge the inside and outside surfaces, so you get foam without a thermal break. And this kind of material makes a wonderful cellar wall. Actually, it makes wonderful houses too. But, yeah.
Forget. You said an outside wall is needed.
Well, that's because you need access to the outdoors.
To the venting.
Well, for two reasons. If you're using an electrically cooled cellar, you need to have some sort of cooling unit that has access to the outside. And then you also need to vent your space too. Because as I said, the vegetables are giving off a lot of moisture. They're still transpiring because they're still alive. So you have to vent that off and admit fresh air in a certain ratio. You want to have enough venting really to control temperature and humidity, depending on the season and size. This is one way of creating that adjustable vent.
Gosh, I wish we'd had this.
Well, this is actually.
You wrote the book 2 years too after me. I'm gonna have to create a new. I'm gonna have to build a new one. Not me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a piece of hardware called a blast gate. This is used in woodworking shops, and it's a way of shutting off a vacuum system. But it makes a wonderful vent because it's strong and it lasts forever.
Exactly.
And you can lock it. Yeah, you can. There's an adjustable knob here. You can lock it open or close or anywhere in between.
Wherever you need it. Perfect.
Now, in a cellar, in order to get complete circulation through, say, a basement cellar, something you can walk into, you need to have two vents. One ends near the ceiling, and the other would be connected to a pipe that would end near the floor, so you get this circulation through. You don't want to have pockets of extra high humidity where you want it to be more or less even. And that's a way of encouraging air circulation.
This was cool. You were showing me this earlier.
Yeah, well, this is a great idea. You know, when you're electrically cooling a space, what equipment do you need to do that? Well, the standard approach is to get some sort of a refrigeration unit.
Oh, and then I think dollars. And then
well, yeah, it's expensive.
You know,
it's expensive.
That's the whole point.
The kind of refrigeration unit you'd use for a walk-in cooler, they cost thousands of dollars. This device lets you use a window air conditioner as the cooling engine for your fruit salad. You can get one for hundreds of dollars, not thousands. Normally, though, if you just stuck a window air conditioner in the wall, it's not going to take you down cold enough.
No.
It's only going to take you down to 10 or 12 degrees, which isn't cold enough. This device fools the air conditioner into cooling down lower. And
that's great.
Yeah, and it lets you operate efficiently. It's an efficient way to do it and not very expensive.
There's so many gadgets here. I mean, I think this is how I got my husband to do this, because I said, you know, you just sort of plant the seeds, saying, you know, we're wasting all these vegetables. Why can't we be going and buying more? And then you sort of leave the root cellar book lying around, because they love to build and construct. And I think, you know, this is, and there's such a satisfying end to it too, where all through the winter you are then, you know, reaping the benefits of what the farmer's grown, and you can store it. And I don't know why in a generation, basically, we've now lost this ability to store our foods, whereas our parents and grandparents, it was just, that's what you did. You put up the food, right?
Well, it was an economic necessity then, I think, and when we got more affluent and more convenience-oriented, we lost something.
But I think though you will find certainly in Toronto probably a lot of times a lot of the in the immigrant neighborhoods of the old Italian neighborhoods and stuff, the houses will have root cellars. I would think, Jennifer, you can probably attest to that.
Yeah, I've heard that's what people are rediscovering them.
Yeah,
and that's what's so fascinating is what was a really good idea back then. It's still a really good idea, and we're just figuring that out now with the new generation. We didn't have to store food because it's all of a sudden it's available any day of the week. You can go to any store and get any type of produce year round, pretty much.
And it's good to start with basics, though, isn't it? Like to start with your, like you said, pick the longest thing, like potatoes and carrots and parsnips, and maybe just take the first year just to figure it out, sort of thing.
Sure.
A little bit.
It's not complicated, but you do want to start as easy as possible. And my favorite things to store are my favorite vegetables, which are all these vegetables, beets, carrots.
Store the stuff you like. Not just because it says so in the book. But I think
stuff that grows underground. That's
exactly. Yes, the root. The root. The whole point of the root cellar.
Yeah,
right?
and other things can be stored, but those are the ones that are most logical and easy.
Because I know some things it's like companion planting when you're in the garden. There's certain things you can't store together companionably because they don't get along, and apples are one of the things that don't store well, and onions and carrot and garlic doesn't store as well with the root vegetables. So you have to be conscious of that as well. And that's what this book that's what I found most useful, is it told you what conditions are for most things. But there's no harm, as you say, in trying something and see if it works. I mean,
it's an art.
Yeah.
The root celery is an art, and you're going to have to learn new skills. Every root cellar situation is unique, and it's just like managing your own little orchestra. You have to get to know it.
Now, Jennifer, you're at the other end of it because you've developed all the recipes for this. So you've taken what Steve's constructed, put all the stuff in, and then said, "Okay, here we go," and it's fun.
What do you do with it? Yeah. And I think buying locally is just a really good way to do your shopping. Things are in season, they're cheaper, they're more nutritious because they haven't been on trucks. You get different varieties of things that are grown closer because they don't need to be shipped for 3 weeks and be really sturdy and spongy. So you get better produce when it's bought locally.
Do you now in your mind? You have a root cellar.
I'm working on mine because where we did store stuff, I learned wasn't perfect. So,
but do you buy? I mean, I think you obviously do, Steve. But do you buy now thinking, "Oh, I can put this in the root cellar," or do you? I mean, and when do you start putting your stuff in the root cellar?
Well, 90% of the stuff we put in our cellar we grow. So
you're growing too. After what I just said,
I'm going to the farmer's market.
Yeah, me too.
Well, where I live, we don't have. Well, there are some farmers markets. There are some, but
you are the farm.
Well, gardening is a pretty strong tradition where I live, and it's really something to sit down at Thanksgiving or Christmas and to have a complete meal that you made entirely, right from seed to
storing it in the root cellar.
Absolutely, and right to the table.